Congressman Clyde, welcome back to Washington Watch. Great to see you.
Well, thank you, Tony. It's great to be with you this afternoon.
So before we get into the Bidenomics, let's talk about the Supreme Court decisions today. Your reactions on the religious liberty case.
Oh, I tell you, this is phenomenal. It reminds me of a year ago when I was there on the 24th of June. Here we have the Supreme Court in two decisions, actually. One, a unanimous decision, and another one, a significant majority, 50 or two-thirds majority, where the First Amendment is recognized for how it is written and the originalist intent of our founding fathers and those who created our country and drafted our Constitution. No person should be deprived of their religious liberties, and absolutely in the one decision. And in the other decision, no person, because of the color of their skin, should be deprived either. You know, I go back to what Martin Luther King said, where he envisions a country where people are judged by the content of their character and not the color of their skin. And so I am so thankful for both of these decisions. I think they will move our country ahead, and I'm thankful for our Supreme Court.
I want to move on to the president's, really it's kind of strange. He's embracing what was kind of intended to be a pejorative, Bidenomics. Yesterday he's in Chicago, basically setting the stage for his 2024 election, embracing and running on something that only 34% of Americans think he's doing a good job at, and that's the economy. But I want to play this clip and get your reaction. Clip number 4, please.
Bidenomics is working. When I took office, the pandemic was raging and our economy was reeling. Supply chains were broken, millions of people unemployed, hundreds of thousands of small businesses on the verge of closing after so many had already closed. Literally hundreds of thousands on the verge of closing.
Your response, Congressman.
Well, that's an interesting way to look at things. I mean, he takes credit for creating an economy that was going to bounce back anyway because of what President Trump had done. I mean, when President Biden took office, inflation was 1%. Under his watch, it went up to a 40-year high of 9%, close to 9%. I mean, you know, this is the ultimate spin machine here. He's obviously up for re-election and trying to make a bad economy, a terrible economy, an economy full of failures look like a rose. And that simply is not going to fly with Americans because they understand the problems and they feel them in their wallet each and every day. So it's not surprising that the president puts this type of a truly incorrect spin on it. But, but this is what we're getting out of this administration. Not truth, but lies.
Yeah. You're right in pointing out that he took credit for an economy that was going to bounce back, all the jobs that, the businesses that were closed down because of COVID, when they opened back up, he takes credit for creating those jobs. But he also takes credit, and he repeated this again yesterday. And it's so dishonest. It's disingenuous. It's just not being forthright with the American people. He says that he reduced the deficit by $1.7 trillion. That was emergency spending during COVID. It wasn't supposed to be repeated, but he's taking credit for it not being repeated on one hand, but then on the other hand, he did spend more money, which has fueled inflation in his infrastructure bill.
Oh, and he should be taking credit for a national debt that exceeds $32 trillion right now as well. But obviously, he's not going to take credit for that. I mean, we have spent more under this administration than any other administration in my lifetime in such a short period of time. So you can see that Bidenomics, whatever he wants to call it, is a complete failure for this country, for the citizens of our country. And we need to get back to what President Trump actually did, where he created the greatest economy in the world. And that was truly not an economy driven by the government, but an economy driven by small businesses and entrepreneurship and American exceptionalism. That's what drives a great economy.
I want to get your reaction to the Congressional Budget Office, the report released yesterday that we are going to see some significant increases in national debt as the deficit grows. Now, according to the CBO, which is a nonpartisan entity, they expect the debt to reach 107% of the country's gross domestic product by 2029, and from there to shoot up to 181%. How can we sustain that?
I don't believe we can sustain that, Tony. But that's what you're seeing when you have an ability to spend literally to infinity and beyond, which is what I have been saying. This debt deal that was signed into law by President Biden, that was negotiated, that gives us a date and not a dollar figure, is going to be terrible for our country. You know, it's unsustainable. You and I, we certainly can't do this individually. How can our country do this collectively? It's going to just increase inflation tremendously, and it's just not something that that our country can handle, in my opinion.
Congressman Clyde, you touched on the budget agreement that was made to raise the debt ceiling. The president actually boasting about that yesterday, that he got a deal, and implying that the Republicans did not. Play clip number 6, please.
Just in my first 2 years in office, my team and I have reduced the deficit by $1.7 trillion, more than any president had. Just in 2 years. And the budget agreement I negotiated, without having to give away anything of consequence, reduced the deficit by another $1 trillion.
Congressman, your response, 30 seconds.
I can tell you that what he's doing is spin. It's pure spin coming from the administration. He has not really reduced any spending whatsoever. He wants to continue to increase spending, not reduce it. And you will see our national debt continue to climb and climb and climb because of what President Biden is trying to do. But we in the House and the Appropriations Committee, no, we're going to stop that. We are going to continue to spend less and less and less, because we've got to get this out of control spending under control. And that's what I want the American people to know from a Republican majority.
Well, I'm glad you're on the Appropriations Committee, because there's not that's not a place where a lot of conservatives hang out. And so we're glad you're there, and we know you're going to be keeping a watchful eye over the tax dollars that Americans are, I wouldn't say voluntarily, but forced to give to the government. But nonetheless, it's our money. We want to make sure it's spent wisely.
Thank you, Tony. I appreciate that.
Always good to see you. Have a great day.